Hello everyone, and this video is about the arguments in the Python. So we will be learning about the required keyword and default arguments in the Python and what is the difference between them. So let me just define the function here. Okay, but if you don't know how to define the function in Python, check out my last video. I'll be giving you link in the description of that video, so you can check it out as well if you don't know about the function, how we call it and how we define it. So let's write the code here. First of all, I have to define the function. Define
Okay, values A, B, C, and D.
I'll be giving value to the D and C 45. Okay, first of all, before defining the arguments, let me just define you the difference between parameter and the argument. Parameter
Are the variable when we define function, and
arguments or the data we pass in functions. But first of all, let me just tell you the difference between the parameter and the arguments. Parameters are the variable when we define the function. So you can see that here we are defining the function. So these variables are our parameters, and when we call the functions and put the values while calling the function, those values are called arguments. Alright, to understand this topic, you must have an idea of the parameters and the argument and the difference between them. So let me just write the code body here. Print okay, so we have defined our function. Now let me just call the function now. So we are calling the function values. We are giving the argument here. Alright, passing the values into the parameter of a function are the arguments 10, 20, and okay, you can see that variable C and the variable D have the default values or defined values. Okay, you can see here now I have passed the two values, two argument in our function, but not the four arguments. But you can see now these two variables, these two parameters C and D have the default values or the values that were defined while defining that function. Okay, the variables or the parameters with the defined values, or we can also say the variables whose values are pre-defined or pre-assigned when we were defining their function, those values or those arguments are known as default argument and they are optional. So if you use it while calling the function or not, it doesn't matter. If you don't use it, they will go with the default value, but if you use it, if you give it the values while calling a function, the default values will be overridden. So this was the default argument. So let me just tell you the positional argument and the keyword argument. Okay, in the positional argument, these are the positional arguments. All right, just call the function and write the values of the parameters. So these are kind of positional arguments, or we do say it the required arguments. All right, okay, in positional arguments, or we call it the required arguments, position of the parameter is important, or you can also call it as the order of the parameter, order of the argument is important. But when you use the named argument or the keyword argument, we also call it the name argument, the order of calling it or order of assigning the values in named or keyword argument is not important. If I just write the value of A and B first and A after that, you will see that the value of A is 20 now and the value of B is 10 now. So okay, so the order doesn't matter in the keyword argument, but the order matters in the required argument. All right, okay, one last point of this video is that whenever you want to use the positional argument or the keyword argument or the default argument all together, you have to put them in the order. Alright, you have to put them in the order. First of all, you will write the positional argument, then you will come up with the keyword argument, then in the end you will come up with the default values. Alright, so this is all for this video. If you really find it useful, hit the like button, subscribe the channel, and bye bye.